Don't forget to like, subscribe and share the videos.
Hello all, welcome to Ganesh IAS Academy. This is the special session. In this session, we will discuss about the previous year UPSC Mains economic questions. So, the main ambition behind the session is to how to approach the upcoming mains exam and what are the things you need to know before you are going to the exam. So, here we will discuss about the certain terminologies used by the UPSC Mains exam. So, for example, if it is a critically examined means what you have to write. When it comes to the discuss means what you have to do. When it be like a distinguish or a debate, command. So, what are the things that you have to do when you are approaching this kinds of questions? And also we will discuss about how to structure your answer. And also what are the introduction you can give and what are the conclusion you can say. So all these things will be discussed here. Okay, it will be more useful for your mains exam. Let's begin the session. This question was asked in 2021. There's a 10 mark question and 150 words. The question is about distinguish between the capital budget and the revenue budget. Explain the component of both these budgets. It is a purely a it is a purely a conventional part question. So if you know what is capital budget and what is revenue budget means, it is easy to handle this question. So it is one of the easiest question asked in 2021. So we will decode this question. First, it is about distinguished. This is the first part of the question. So it is saying that distinguish between the capital budget and then the revenue budget. Next, explain the components of both this budget. Next, what it is asking is, it is asking for the components of this budgets. So what are the things there will be in these budgets? For example, when it comes to the capital budget, there will be the components like capital expenditure and capital receipt. When it comes to the revenue budget, it will be there of revenue expenditure and then revenue receipt. Within that, what are the things will be there? So these are the things about the components. So it is one of the easiest question. So what will be the intro for this? You can say about any factual data of the union budget, how much the capex the government has did in this union budget, or else you can speak about holistic definition for the capital budget and the revenue budget. That is also you can say. So for example, when it comes to the capital budget means it is related to the liabilities and assets. When it comes to the revenue budget, it is other than liabilities and assets. So this is also a simple intro you can give. So when it comes to these kinds of conventional question means it is better to go with the certain definitions more than any current data, because this is a purely conventional part of question. So for these kinds of question, you just go with the conventional definitions. What is capital budget? What is revenue budget? That is more than enough. Afterwards, just jump into the question. So distinguish capital budget and then revenue budget. So capital budget is purely focused on the asset creation, or else it is related to the liabilities. Okay, so asset, either it will be the asset creation or else asset reduction, or else it's the creation of the liabilities or else a reduction of the liabilities. Okay, so asset creation, reduction, and then when it comes to liabilities, borrowings or reducing the borrowings. reducing the debt. So when it comes to the revenue receipt, revenue budget means you can say about other than the asset, other than liabilities, means it will be like a revenue receipt, okay, or else a revenue expenditure. So when it comes to distinguish part means you have to connect it to the first question, you have to explain the second question also. By the way only you can distinguish between what is capital budget and what is revenue budget. So that is the more important thing you need to follow in this question. So when you are going to address the first part of the question, you have to continuously address the second part of the question, because first question is about distinguishing features, second is explain the component. So continuously you can do that. Like when it comes to the capital budget, it is about capital receipt and then capital expenditure. When it comes to the revenue budget, it is about the revenue receipt and then the revenue expenditure. In this revenue receipt, what are the things will be there and what are the things will be there. So these are the things you have to list it. Before that, you have to know certain main things about what are the things of revenue receipt, which means revenue receipt means it won't create any liabilities or else it won't reduce any asset. Neither create liability nor reduce any asset. That is called as revenue receipt, which means consider that the government is putting taxes. By the way, they are getting certain revenue. In that money, that is the money that is coming towards the government, which is not creating any liabilities, and also the government is not losing any of their asset, because tax is their own money. They have the authority to do that. So taxes and then the fines, fees, okay. So all these things are the revenue receipt, which is not going to create any liabilities or not going to reduce any asset. So that is called as revenue receipt. Even the dividend getting from the RBI, okay, or else if the government has invested certain money in any company, that company is providing a profit to the government, means that is also a revenue receipt, because the money that is just coming towards the government, for that money the government is not going to lose anything, or they are not in the liability of repay that money. So that is called as revenue receipt. First thing you need to know is, while answering this question, okay, you have to divide it, and then in this thing you have to say that in the revenue receipt you have to list it. When it comes to revenue expenditure, you have to list it. So this is the way you have to do the structuring of this answer. And then afterwards you have to say what are the things that are related to the revenue receipt. For example, tax, fine, fees, stamp duty, dividend, profits. So these are the things comes under the revenue receipt. So these are the components of the revenue receipt. So these are the components that are connected to the revenue budget. So while addressing the first question, you are continuously addressing the second part of the question. And when it comes to the revenue expenditure, so revenue expenditure means that you are spending certain money, okay, but that money won't reduce any liability and also not create any asset. So that is called as revenue expenditure. For example, the government is paying salaries, the government is giving pensions, the government is providing subsidies. So all these things comes under the revenue expenditure. It is not going to create any infrastructure. It is not going to create any dams or any metro lines or any railway lines. Okay, so it is not creating any asset. So that is called as revenue expenditure. And also neither reduces the liability. The government is need to pay, because the government servants are working for the government For that the government have to repay. For that they are doing that. So it is not going to reduce their liabilities. So these are the things that comes under the revenue expenditure. Here you have to say that salaries, pensions. So these are the things comes under the component of the revenue budget. So this is the structure you need to follow. Next, when it comes to the capital budget. When it comes to the capital budget, you have to speak about the capital receipt. So in that capital receipt, the money is moving towards the government. In that scenario, when it comes to when it is related to the capital budget and the money is flowing towards the government, means it is a capital receipt, which means either it creates liabilities or it have to reduces their asset. For example, consider that the government is doing the disinvestment, which means they are selling the shares of the government companies. So by the way, they are reducing their asset. By selling that, they are getting certain money. So that is reducing their asset. Or else consider that the government is borrowing money from the World Bank, IMF, any countries. Okay. So in that scenario, they are borrowing, they are creating a liabilities. Even though the money is pouring into the government, okay, pouring towards the government, it is creating certain liabilities. Then it is called as capital reserve. So you have to say that what are the things under the capital reserve? Disinvestments. Okay, borrowings. So these are the components that are connected to the capital budget. Next, when it comes to the capital expenditure, here, so in the capital expenditure, either it will reduces the liabilities or it will create the assets. So that is called as capex. So see, the economy, how the government is performing can be measured only by the capex. So consider that if the government is constructing roads, dams, bridges, so that will increases the connectivity. That connectivity will increases the economic activity. By the way, it is going to help in the growth of the GDP. So the economy will grow. So capex is the most important thing you have to know. So in that capex, either the government is going to create the asset or reduces the liabilities. So that is called as capital expenditure. And also consider that the government is repaying certain money. They borrowed from the World Bank or IMF, anything. So in that scenario, they are reducing their liabilities. They are reducing their debts. So if there is a debt, means that will affect the future generation of that country. So the government is reducing their liabilities. So that is also part of the capital expenditure. Okay. So when it comes to the capital expenditures, the components are building dams, roads, metro, railway, so everything. So infra projects, or else repayment of the loans. So these are the components of the capital budget. So by the way, you are addressing the two subheadings of that question in single distinguishing pattern. This is the way you can follow. Okay. So also while explain all this thing, you just follow this flow chart diagram. It will be more transparent. So it will enhances your getting extra mark. Okay. So these are the things you can follow. Okay. This is the structure you need to follow to get a maximum mark from this question. And then in the conclusion, you can speak about the FRBM Act. Or else you can speak about the how much capex, how much capital expenditure did by the union government in 2023 to 24 or 24 to 25. If you know the data means you can score. So that will enhance or boost your mark. So this is the structure you need to follow to address these kinds of questions. Okay, thank you.